Have you ever found yourself armed with all the right paperwork, totally ready to navigate some new system, only to just hit an invisible wall?
Oh, yeah. That feeling where everything should work.
Exactly. But it just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into a really challenging reality in higher education, getting necessary accommodations for neurodivergent students.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, and our mission here is to go beyond just the surface of what, should be possible according to the law. We want to uncover the surprising institutional barriers that still exist.
Even for students who seem to have, like, ironclad documentation.
Precisely. Even with that rock-solid paper trail, we'll explore how these systems, often built for standardization, could really clash with the very specific needs of individual learners.
It's a fundamental mismatch sometimes.
It really is. And to help us unpack this, we've got some incredibly insightful sources. There's a powerful personal account from someone who's both a special education teacher and a parent. We also have specific legal and pedagogical documentation. And this fascinating thought experiment that kind of reveals the hidden mechanics of how these requests are actually processed or not inside a university.
That sounds really interesting. So the big question we're tackling is...
Right. What does it really take to get accommodations if you're, say, an autistic gestalt language processing or GLP student in today's higher ed system?
And GLP, just quickly for listeners, means processing language in chunks or whole gestalts, not word by word. It really changes how you learn and communicate.
Exactly. So we'll see how this language of support meant for individuals runs up against the machinery of standardization.
And what that ultimately means for accessibility, real accessibility.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into the specifics. Starting with the author's story, her initial experience with Western Governors University, WGU.
Right.
Her daughter had a legally sufficient IEP, that's the Individualized Education Program, and a summary performance, an SOP. These are documents designed specifically to bridge support from high school to college or work.
Key transition documents. Should be straightforward.
You'd think. But WGU basically refused to honor them initially. It was this direct collision, just like the author said, where the language of support met the machinery of standardization.
And what's really striking is how subtle that refusal was, right? The emails from WGU's Student Disability Services, the SDS they were described as.
Polite, professional.
Exactly. Polite, professional, and even seemingly collaborative if you didn't read too closely. They kept saying things like, no accommodations have been denied at this point.
Ah, the classic non-denial denial.
Pretty much, and assuring them they were actively engaged in the interactive process, standard language.
Okay, but here's where it gets really tricky. Because between those nice professional lines, WGU basically preemptively shot down certain requests. They said things like alternative formats or human grading would fundamentally alter the structure of the exam.
Wow. So the very accommodations that would make the exam accessible for a GLP student
are deemed structure-altering by the university. So it's like they're saying, sure, we support you, but not in the ways you actually need support.
It's not that the system doesn't know what's needed. It knows. It's just decided those needs don't fit their standardized model.
Which creates this impossible situation, this double bind the author talks about. You need the accommodation to take the test fairly, but asking for it means you're changing the test too much.
So you can't win. Access denied, effectively.
Right. So after hitting this wall, this incredibly frustrating wall, the author reached out to a friend, a school psychologist.
Okay, someone with expertise.
Yeah, master's trained, deeply experienced in exactly this stuff, post-secondary transition, disability documentation.
That makes sense. So what happens when your rock-solid paper trail isn't enough? What do you do?
Well, the friend's advice was key. She basically said, you know exactly what needs to be in this letter, right?
Ah, so it wasn't about just asking nicely.
Not at all. It was about precision, about precise mapping of access needs onto assessment conditions, grounded in pedagogy, grounded in law.
Making the case undeniable, almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So together, they drafted this incredibly specific, targeted letter. It's become known as a mentor text, actually, written with this intense level of detail that the author attributes to autistic pedantry.
Okay, so what did it cover?
It laid out 7 critical testing accommodations. And crucially, each one had a detailed explanation why this matters for an autistic GLP.
Giving the reasoning, not just the request. Smart.
Very smart. So number 1 was transparent testing environment documentation. GLP folks often need context before the task, unexpected instructions, hidden system stuff.
That can trigger anxiety threat responses.
Right. So having a pre-written overview lets them understand the landscape first, helps them regulate.
Makes sense. What else?
Number 2, choice of testing format. Things like unseen remote proctors, constant monitoring. That can feel like surveillance, deeply destabilizing.
Yeah, potentially replicating past traumatic experiences for some.
Exactly. So offering asynchronous options, or maybe in instructor proctoring, that restores a sense of predictability and trust.
Okay, crucial. What's next?
Additional time for all assessments.
Yeah.
This is a big one. GLP students often retrieve and build language differently, non-linearly.
So they need significantly more time just to process and respond?
Yeah. Without it, you're not testing their knowledge. You're just testing their processing speed under pressure. The letter recommended at least 1.5 times the standard time, maybe even double.
Double time. Okay, that's fairly common, but the reasoning is key here.
Totally. Then number 4, use of sensory and environmental regulation tools. Things like noise-canceling headphones, fidget tools, maybe visual barriers.
Because overstimulation can lead to shutdown.
Exactly. Language disintegration, shutdowns. These tools help maintain what they call co-regulation, keeping the system calm enough to function.
Got it. Essential supports.
5th was written instructions and prompts, no verbal-only directions.
Auditory processing delays.
Yeah. Verbal stuff can just get lost. Having it written down, visually, literally, allows for rereading, reprocessing, making sure it lands.
Clear and unambiguous.
Number 6, plain language, direct interaction from proctors. GLP systems often rely on, like, emotionally safe, grounded communication.
So small talk, jokes, metaphors.
It's just noise.
Yeah.
It can actually derail their cognitive state, increase anxiety. They need direct, clear, literal interaction.
Okay, that's a nuance many might miss.
Definitely. And finally, number 7, a pre-test familiarization option, like a practice run.
To understand the interface, the pacing.
Exactly. GLP means forming understanding these gestalts over time. A non-graded demo or walkthrough lets them explore the system without the pressure, supports executive function, reduces that test anxiety.
So that letter sounds incredibly thorough. It wasn't just what was needed, but the why, the impact if it wasn't provided.
Precisely. It was like a blueprint for access, but also a warning flare, and a testament to really deep care and understanding of the student's needs.
A powerful document.
Yeah. So what happens when this carefully crafted blueprint meets the hard machinery of the university system? The author and her friend did this thought experiment.
Okay, so they game planned it out.
They did. And the results, well, they weren't exactly encouraging.
Uh-oh. Let's hear it. How did the specific requests fare in this thought experiment?
Right. So connecting it to WGU's actual policies and likely practices, take the headphones.
The noise-canceling ones for sensory regulation?
Yep. Categorically banned in WGU's online proctoring rules. Why? To maintain audio monitoring integrity.
So a documented, reasonable need?
Supported by the SOP, decades educational practice.
It gets overridden by a blanket policy.
Completely. Rendered unreasonable. Likelihood of approval in the thought experiment? 0%.
0. Wow. Okay.
Then, the alternative formats, like human grading instead of automated.
The things they already said would fundamentally alter the exam.
Exactly. That phrase is like an administrative kill switch. Once it's labeled that way, it's off the table. Likelihood, maybe 0 to 5%. Basically dead on arrival.
So the things that might make the biggest difference are the least likely to happen.
Pretty much. What about sensory support tools, like fidgets or visual barriers?
Are those banned too?
Not explicitly, but they fall into this murky gray zone. Proctoring relies on visual surveillance. Proctors flag suspicious items.
And a fidget toy might look suspicious if the proctor isn't trained.
Right. They're unfamiliar to the standard system. So denial is likely. They estimated maybe a 15-25% chance of approval.
Still really low odds for something potentially crucial.
Yeah. And even written-only instruction that seems like it should be simple, right?
You'd think.
But it hits structural uncertainty. WGU outsources its proctoring to measure learning in this case.
And there's no guarantee about their accessibility protocols or training.
Exactly. We don't know the contract details. And the proctoring company likely hires for tech skills, basic English, following procedures.
Not necessarily for expertise in supporting diverse learners.
Right. So you might get nominal approval, like maybe 60-70% chance the box gets ticked, but meaningful implementation, probably less than 40%. The proctor might still give verbal cues out of habit.
So even an approved accommodation might not actually work in practice.
Which leaves extended time,
The one everyone thinks of.
and ironically, the most likely to be approved. Maybe 95% likelihood. Why?
Was it messes with their system the least?
Bingo. It's the least disruptive to the testing infrastructure. But here's the kicker.
It might not even be that helpful.
Exactly. Limited usefulness. They estimated maybe 30% efficacy for this student because the main problems weren't about speed. They were about sensory overload, unclear instructions, the proctoring environment itself.
And having a big timer ticking down might even add more stress for some students.
Totally. So the thought experiment concluded that even if they fought hard, got new evaluations, brought in lawyers,
They'd likely only get the accommodations WGU already gives everyone anyway.
extra time,
Yeah.
maybe the chat function, maybe scheduled breaks, none of the specific things that addressed the daughter's actual GLP profile.
So the cost, the effort, the stress, the odds just didn't stack up.
Nope, the cost-benefit didn't work out.
And this experience, while specific to WGU, it really serves as a case study, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It reflects a broader trend.
Most modern universities, especially the big online ones, or those relying heavily on standardized models and outsourced tech, they operate on similar core assumptions. Things like standardization equals fairness, automation ensures integrity, surveillance guarantees security.
It's a logic rooted in, industrial efficiency? Not really human understanding.
Precisely. These systems tend to flatten communication. They penalize processing styles that don't fit the narrow norm.
So sensory distress isn't seen as an unmet need.
It's treated as a compliance issue. Deviation from the script isn't seen as neurodiversity.
It's seen as potential cheating.
Exactly. And the student, the actual human learner in the middle of all this, gets lost.
So is it just misunderstanding? Or there's something deeper driving this?
Well, the sources argue, and it's a compelling point, that at its core, this is often about economics.
Basic economics, how so?
Standardization lowers costs. Automation cuts down on labor. Fewer graders, fewer support staff needed. Predictability limits liability.
Okay, I see.
Accommodations that require human judgment, nuance, understanding the individual, those things don't scale easily.
They take time. They take care. They require discretion.
Things that aren't efficient from a purely business perspective. And so
They aren't allowed, or they're made incredibly difficult to access.
right, they get denied. Not because the requests are unreasonable or silly.
But because they're expensive, they disrupt the efficient machine.
Exactly. So when a university like WGU markets itself as flexible and accessible, but then refuses these kinds of accommodations, the argument is that this isn't an oversight. It's a strategic decision.
A business model disguised in the language of inclusion.
That's the argument presented. That the modern university in this kind of model is maybe serving its investors, its bondholders, more than the public or the students themselves.
That's quite a statement.
It raises a really important and frankly uncomfortable question. What does it mean when disabled students, particularly neurodivergent students, start being viewed as a bad investment?
Because they cost too much, or don't fit the mold, or complicate the script.
Mm-hmm. The underlying message that gets sent, even if unintentionally, is, you're welcome here, but only if you come without needs.
Only if you can pass for typical.
Only if you don't slow down the machine. It's a chilling thought.
Yeah. Wow. So we've really dived deep into this complex world of college accommodations. We've seen how even really comprehensive documentation, that rock-solid paper trail, can just crumble against systemic design.
Yeah, the challenge isn't just proving you need something. It's navigating a system that might be fundamentally built on efficiency, maybe prioritized over equity.
And that mentor text letter we talked about, the really detailed one. And there's also mention of a sample inquiry letter for checking out prospective schools.
Those become crucial tools for survival, really. They highlight that you need specificity. It's not just about having a diagnosis. It's about translating what that means functionally.
It's not just advocacy, it's stamina.
And having all the clinician details, the provenance clear. These aren't just letters. They're like lifelines against what the author calls institutional erasure.
Especially looking ahead, maybe towards a future with fewer credentialed specialists accessible and even more reliant on automated systems.
It's a real concern.
So wrapping this up, this whole deep dive, it's not just about how to navigate these systems, is it? It's about understanding the forces shaping them.
Absolutely. Which leads us to a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about this. What does it actually mean for the future of education, for learning itself, when the very systems designed to facilitate learning might subtly, or not so subtly, ensure that certain types of learners remain unseen, unaccommodated, and ultimately unsupported?
We see today how a system's basic logic, often driven by economics, can end up dictating who gets access and who doesn't, regardless of individual needs or even legal rights. So as you go forward, maybe think about how you might spot these kinds of warning signs or identify the economic drivers behind other systems you encounter. It might help you advocate, sure, but also just understand the bigger patterns affecting all of us.